before I started this whole track, I asked why I wanted to do this. Why was it that I wanted to become an academic or become rich? And so my sense of purpose came from helping my family. And you'll find that a lot of people have the same purpose. One of my friends, in fact, has created a website for the purpose of helping his family. So you might want to do the same thing. Ask your family what they need, what motivates them, and what would help them to be better people. Now that won't work for everyone. Some families are too far gone. But what you want to do is imagine the type of family that you would want to have, the type of friends you would want to have. So whenever I talk about finding your purpose, developing your skill set, I said last time, imagine you have died and that you're at your funeral and that they're saying things about you. What would you want them to say about you? Well, take that and rewind to the present day and ask it of your friends and family. What do they want out of life? And once you identify what they want, then identify a way to connect what you want, your passion, with their passion. That's how you develop social capital. So those are the basics. And it takes a while to do that. It takes self-reflection. May take, in fact, isolation to some of these things. A lot of people who want to do this, they go on retreats. They go to the mountains. They go to the desert. And if you do that kind of stuff, you're cutting yourself off from society in order to find who you really are. What mission you should have in your life going forward. So that's the end of that. Once you have that figured out, the next step is how to use that. How do you use your sense of purpose and mission? And this is where you get then to the nuts and bolts of how to develop financial skills, how to develop intellectual skills, and how to develop social skills. So let's go with social skills first. The key of social skills is that you have to be able to communicate a lot of information in a very short period of time. So we call this the pitch. He has to develop a way to talk to people and communicate in roughly 1 minute what your goals are, how you're going to achieve them, and how they can help you achieve them. And they tell you their goals, and you then share mechanisms for achieving goals together. Once you develop that skill, and that's a skill that's rather hard to develop because it requires focus, as well as a good story that you tell yourself and to others. But once you develop that skill, then you can start to identify the intellectual correspondence between yourself and another individual. So you ask another person what they care about. And you might care about American history, they might care about economics. You identify the skill sets that you have that you can use to collaborate on an ongoing basis. Then once you identify that skill set, you are able to develop a plan to structure that skill set into a company. Which means that you have to look at your friends. Essentially this is about getting out your phone book, calling people, and saying, I am partnering with a friend of mine to develop a company. Can you contribute? It's the same exact dynamic in politics, where a politician calls his friends and his family for monetary contributions. Same thing starting in business. You have to get used to calling people and asking for money. When I first went into higher education, my first foray was going to Cornell Summer School. I got very good at calling people and asking for money to help finance my journey to the summer college. And that's one thing that I've developed very well over the past few years. Back when I was 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, my schools would have these selling drives. You would sell chocolate, you would sell raffle tickets, and you get a prize at the end. I developed very good salesmanship skills. To the point where I can go to virtually anyone, anywhere, talk to them, and make a sale. Because what you're doing is you are developing first a relationship with them, you're identifying what they need, and then how your product fits in with their needs. This is what all salesmen do. In fact, there's a movie that highlights this aspect. It's called Glengarry Glen Ross. If you want to learn how to be a salesman, you should watch that movie. Because in that movie, there are two examples of salesmen. One's good, one's bad. The bad salesman goes to you, doesn't care about what your situation is, doesn't even ask you. He simply says, I have this product, it's going to change your life, I think this would be great for you, please buy it. So they do what's called the hard sell. They just bring the product to you and they try to sell it to you. The other salesman, the good salesman, he develops a relationship first. He asks the person, what kind of life do you have? What kind of needs do you have? What do you want most? And then after identifying those issues, he brings the real estate or the product to that person and says, here is a product that might be able to help you satisfy your need. So that's all you're doing. You're going to people, asking them what they need, and providing it. And if you do that, you're then developing long-term relationships that get people to trust you. And trust becomes the foundation for business. So it's at this point that we talk about how to transcend the initial phases and go into the actual monetary phases. Now, I'm going to go with the basics first. How do you generate cash flow? First, you have to identify a need. What do people want? It could be food, it could be entertainment, it could be clothing, it could be shelter. The best way to generate cash flow is to identify those needs that are marginal. Now, marginal needs are beyond the basic needs. Your basic needs are food, shelter, clothing, housing. Your marginal needs then would be stuff like going to see movies, or going to plays, or having entertainment of some kind. So when you develop cash flow, and this is very well developed in the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, you have two types of cash flow. One is called negative cash flow, one is called positive cash flow. Positive cash flow is called an asset. It's something that brings you money. Negative cash flow is called a liability. It takes money away from you. In general, positive cash flow is developed by renting something to someone. So in the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, for instance, he goes to a library and checks out some books. He identifies a need. His friends, who are about 8, 9, 10 years old, want to read comic books. But there's a collective action problem. Only one person has the collection of comic books. So he's able to arrange these comic books and have people pay to read them on an hourly basis. That's cash flow right there. If you can get someone to pay you for a service on an hourly or daily or even weekly basis, that's your cash flow right there. And what you're trying to do then is tap into their needs as they identify them. And you're trying to convince them ultimately to broaden their range of needs. So this is why you have to start with a relationship first. They have to trust you to communicate to you their needs and trust that you will deliver their needs to them, deliver the supply to address their needs. Now once you have identified the cash flow, what you're identifying after that is the profit margin. So you want to buy wholesale. You want to go to the companies that sell goods in bulk. So Costco is one of them. There's also Price Club or Sam's Club and Walmart. Now all these stores, the genius of American capitalism is you have economies of scale. You want to go to places that allow you to build economies of scale. Buying lots of products for very cheap prices, and that way you can sell them for higher prices on an incremental basis. So the basic example is Coke. Go to a store like Costco, and you buy Coke and candy. You can get Coke 32 cans for $7, and candy, 10 candy bars for $10. You sell each one of those items then for $1, and for the Coke, you would have a profit margin. See, if you sell 32 cans for $1 each, $32, you pay $7, that's $25 profit right there. And if you do the same thing for candy bars, you buy single candy bars, 30 for $10, you sell each of them for $1, that's profit margin of $20. So you have $25 and $20 in profit. That's what you call the per unit profit margin. And what you want to do then is go out and find products that people are willing to buy on a per unit basis that will maximize your profit. And you're identifying products then that are very easy to produce on a large scale and very easy to sell, so that you can sell not just 32 cans of Coke, but 3,000 cans of Coke. And this is why you have to identify the best ways to get the product to someone. Now, there are two reasons someone buys something. One is their need, the other is convenience. Now, need is very simple. They come to you. They say, I need a product, I need a loan, or I need food, I need shelter, whatever it is. With the convenience, you go to them. So the first rule of business whenever you start one is location, location, location. You have to be in the places where the most amount of people gather simultaneously. Usually it's a train station, could be a subway, could be an intersection for a store, or for a driveway. And if you look throughout world history, most commerce occurs in